Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show, Nuanced News, as it is being called now. Thank you very much for joining me to our show. And if you're new, it's our show because follow me on Instagram at legendmares, and you can put in your feedback. We'll do part twos to some of these big issues and make sure we're being as balanced as possible. This show is all about healthcare, healthcare, healthcare. Like it or love it or hate it or dislike it, how we do it in this country. We're going to dive into it a little bit. Mostly, we're going to talk about the arguments for and against socialized or universal medicine. I guess those aren't exactly the same thing, but in common parlance, we use it pretty interchangeably, so we'll just go with that. Anyways, so thank you for joining me. Let's see, I've got a bunch of notes, so I'm going to try to make this a little bit shorter than the unarmed killing of black people episode. It's another big issue, but I don't want to bore you too much. I don't want to drag on and on. I'm going to try to just give you these straight up facts, these bullet points, and let you think about it. As I said, it's our show, so follow me on Instagram at legendmares, legendmairs, and send me articles and sources. And we'll do a part two down the line on healthcare, and I'll take in your guys' feedback, y'all's feedback, and we'll make sure that our opinions ebb and they flow, and we don't stay the same, and we don't sit in one place, and we don't get entrenched in our viewpoints. We will be nuanced together. All right, so, there's a lot of talk going around about universal healthcare. Obviously, AOC, Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, I don't know how you say it actually. I know I think it's been a big deal to some people that it gets mispronounced, but I don't know. They talk a lot about it, and they talk a lot about cost. So let's break into it. Let's look at some of these myths, some of these things, and try and figure out what's best at the end of the day. And it's a complicated thing. Healthcare is a broken system. Our healthcare system is broken in a lot of ways. I might have just turned off some conservatives right there, but it's just the truth. I think I'll end up turning off some more liberal people partway through this episode for sure. But hey, here on our show, we do not take sides, right? We're just trying to find truth. So that Koch study is it's a famous study done by the Koch brothers that AOC claims. I know. I feel like I heard something too that we shouldn't call her AOC. We should say her name. I'm just gonna say AOC for time's sake. So she talks about this study before, done by the Koch brothers. I mean, it's pretty. That says that universal health care would be cheaper. And I know it's not all about money, but we're gonna go over money stuff first, real quick. I'm trying to get most of that out of the way. The Koch brothers study, according to the author of the study itself, it isn't actually. There are issues with the study, and their main point, that the point taken from it that it's cheaper, is not a fair point to be taken. And so that's so annoying about these studies, is they can be misrepresented. So look, it's misrepresentative to look at the Koch study and say that it says universal healthcare could somehow be cheaper. That's not the case. Bernie Sanders, I believe it was him, he recently brought up a Yale study done. But here's the issue with the Yale study as I found it, because I actually looked at the study. So it says that things would be cheaper if we had universal healthcare, but here's what it doesn't account for, and I'm not sure why. So it factors in increased utilization of healthcare resources by people who are currently uninsured, but it didn't factor in any sort of increased utilization by people who are insured currently. So look, yeah, it says that uninsured people would use it more, but not insured people, and I don't think that's a very fair thing to say. I think if everything was free, I'm kind of an anxious person when it comes to my health. So there's a bunch of things I would go and get checked out probably all the time if it was free. But I do have a copay, And so that's sort of, I kind of weigh it and I go, you know what? I'm probably just being paranoid. I don't think I really got to look into that. So it doesn't factor in any sort of increased utilization, which I think is a problem. I do think that people would be compelled to take advantage of the resources that are free by going and using the healthcare more if it was universal. So I think that's a big glaring issue in that Yale study, that's trying to say it's a little slightly cheaper than our current system. But again, it's not all about money, right? It's not all about money. So, but now let's look at kind of the taxes. This is important. So, I almost choked on my water. Okay, so the average person pays about $40,000 in taxes a year in Canada. Where they have this socialized medicine. The average person in America, the United States of America, pays $15,000 in taxes per year. And the average American also pays around $5,000 for healthcare resources per year. Putting that together to $20,000. So this idea, that we pay a lot for our healthcare, it is true. I mean, because obviously we have a form of socialized medicine in Medicare and Medicaid and the VA, but and that's a whole other episode about the issues with those with those services. They're not perfect. There are the ups and downs with it. But it's important to know we don't just say screw you if you can't get employee insurance or if you can't afford privatized insurance. There are ways to get Medicaid and Medicare, the VA system, obviously. So we don't just hang people out to dry entirely, as it's commonly seems to be held. So yeah, so you're looking at $40,000 a year roughly in taxes in Canada. Yeah, your medicine is free, but still, if you're just talking about the individual, I think it's a little disingenuous to think that we pay, way too much for medicine. I mean, what we pay in medicine, we make up for in having a lot lower taxes, generally speaking. Now, wait times is a common issue people talk about with socialized medicine, and there is something that I don't like about it. Is we, as conservatives, I'll try to talk about the flaws of conservative thinking a bit. It's something I think I'm able to say, and there are plenty of flaws in more left-leaning thinking. I'm not trying to say one or the other has generally more, I don't know, sort of popular disinformation going around. Now, wait times in socialized medicine countries, wait times will differ depending on the severity of the health issue that you are having. So, yes, if you have a minor issue, you might end up waiting quite a long time for help in Canada or the UK or these other socialized countries. But it's not entirely awful, the time difference, if you are actually, in an extremely life-threatening situation. If you've just been shot or in a near fatal accident, right? You're going to get health care. They're not going to sit you in the waiting room for 4 hours, although that is the average wait time in the ER in Canada or the UK, one or the other. Average wait time, if you're wondering, in the United States is 2 hours in the ER, and that's for if you're just walking in. I walked in there with a torn open leg that I tore open mountain biking. Actually, I landed on a T-post, so one of those kind of metal fencing posts. I landed on that, skewered my leg. I probably waited, I don't know. I mean, I was bleeding, but, I'd kind of stopped the bleeding a bit. And I walked in, and I think I ended up waiting like 30 minutes, 45 minutes. So we have good wait times in the United States. And it is important to note, we could talk about, funny enough, I've heard people talk about the stent surgery that Bernie Sanders underwent. And The stent surgery, I believe I've got this right. What it is after you have heart issues, like a heart attack, you put in these stents and they help blood flow into the heart. So it's an important procedure. I don't think it is like life or death, but I do. It's important for the continued maintenance of one's heart health, especially when you've had some sort of issue. So the average wait time, and Bernie Sanders underwent a stent surgery. The average wait time in the UK for a stent surgery is 44 to 52 days. Make sure I got that. Let me just make sure I got that right. I do have that right. Whereas in the United States, you're looking at average wait time for a stent surgery compared to 44 to 52 days in the United Kingdom. The average wait time here is 90 minutes. So that's about how long you'll be waiting to get those surgeries. And the same could be said about MRIs. You might wait 15 minutes here for an MRI. We have a lot of medical technology available. About 9 times the MRI machines of Canada, I believe, and might be the UK. I think I've got those mixed up more than a few times, I'm sure. But anyways, point is we have a lot of resources here. But wait times, it's not like an end-all be-all when it comes to this argument of what's better. Right. But let's look at life expectancy, because life expectancy is another thing. We are ranked low as a country, but here is the rub. If you adjust life expectancy for fatal accidents, homicide, and overdosages, what you actually end up finding is the United States has the best life expectancy in the world. And obviously it opens up another conversation of why do we get in so many fatal accidents and overdose so much and commit so much homicide. But we're not going to talk about that today, because that would probably be more of a culture type discussion we could have down the line about gun control and all that. But yeah, so if you adjust these rates for those things, those things have nothing to do with healthcare. So it's kind of silly to talk about life expectancy without it being adjusted for fatal accidents, homicide, and overdoses. Overdoses, whatever. One of those things. It's not very fair to do that because those don't really involve medical issues, right? When you've just been killed, you don't generally get to walk into a hospital and get treated. I don't mean to make light of people dying or anything like that, but the point is, you adjust for those things. We actually have the highest life expectancy in the world. And especially, when it comes to cancers, right? You look at cancers. Breast cancer, for example. In the UK, Germany, France, New Zealand, these socialized medicine countries, 1 in 2 women or men, I believe men can get it too. I think it's just really rare. Whatever. Anyways, 1 in 2 people diagnosed with breast cancer will pass away. In the United States, 1 in 4 people pass away from breast cancer. So, and this is just across the board with prostate cancer. 1 in 5 people in the United States will die from prostate cancer, as opposed to 25% of people in Canada, which isn't, that much worse. 44% of people in Germany, 49% of people in France, 57% of people in the UK. So when it comes to terminal illness treatment, this is the country you want to be in, by far. We have the best life expectancy rates for all sorts of terminal illnesses, all cancers, all that. So, and look, when we talk about life expectancy in the United States, I think it's almost impressive that you adjust for those, fatal accidents, all that, to be taken out of life expectancy. It's still impressive to me that we are at the top because we do have a large problem, no pun intended, with obesity. We have a very diverse population, and some depending on your ethnic background, you can be more subjectable to certain illnesses. And we have a very large population. I mean, very large. You compare it to even England, New Zealand, Germany, Canada. I mean, these other nations where they have socialized medicine, we have a huge population. And the other thing that gets pointed to a lot is infant mortality rate. This is look. Here's the thing. In the United States, we count when a premature baby is born and then dies. We count that death. A lot of countries don't count that. They don't count a premature baby dying as an infant death. So you adjust for that. And I don't know that we're on the top, but we're on the up and up. So infant mortality rate, that's a bit misleading because we use different standards than most of these other countries. So just something to think about. And a lot of studies are pointed out too about how we like our healthcare here. And so that's worth diving into. There's a WHO report where we're ranked 37th in terms of the appeal of our healthcare. There's a Commonwealth study done on 11 prosperous nations, and we're 11th. It's important to note about these surveys that they are, for the most part, they are kind of just asking people's opinions, like, how do you like your healthcare? And look, if something's free, I mean, you'll probably like it. I don't think that applies to the entirety of the discrepancy between all these different countries, but these are polls, right? These are polls where a lot of it has to do with, do you like your healthcare? And look, if you're not paying a cent up front for healthcare out of your pocket, although you still do have a few fees that can happen in these socialized healthcare countries. I think you probably are likely to say that you like it, as compared to here where it's not free. Apparently we don't like our healthcare here, some of us, or at least we don't say that we like it to the degree that these socialized countries tend to do it. But it's got us right near the 37th in the WHO report. It has us right near like Slovenia. We come after Colombia, all these countries where, okay, come on, like look at your chances of survival here and all that. And as we've said, $15,000 average taxes, $5,000 average healthcare spending per year. It's not exactly overtly expensive in this country, and you have a better chance of surviving all these things that I've just mentioned. So that's worth noting. And look, in the UK, you're 4 times more likely to die in hospital treatment. You're 6 times to 7 times more likely to die from a terminal illness. And again, look, I get it. And I know I'm ragging on all these things that people who like socialized medicine put forward. And I'm not trying to say socialized medicine has no place in this country or should not have a place in this country. I'm not trying to say that. Because I do understand, it's a bummer when people who need expensive treatment in Canada, right, if you have a life-threatening situation, yeah, your chances are lower of surviving than here, but you could make the argument that it makes up for it by the fact that you're not spending any money for these intense treatments, right? So anyways, right, another thing with the fact that we have a mixed system, which is important to note, right? I've said we have Medicare, Medicaid, the VA, and we have all this privatized insurance more than I believe any other country at all. more privatized insurance. Here are the benefits of that. The market. We are, I know I keep saying we, like I'm the one doing new drug research, but I'll just say we for the United States because that's where I'm talking from. But the United States is number one in new drug creation and research papers. We account for 70% of all of that going out into the world. We have incredible doctors. I know I've heard some people say that we have the best doctors in the world. Conservatives will say that we have the best doctors in the world. I don't know that that is true. I think that's a pretty subjective thing to say. But what I will say is I would be willing to bet that we have the highest concentration of high quality doctors in the world. Because look, the better you are, the more money you make. And the more you can expand your practice, as opposed to in a socialized medicine country where doctors aren't necessarily paid a certain amount, right? The government can decide what a doctor is going to make. All right, so there's talk too about the administrative costs. With Medicare, you have about 2% of the money that it gets goes towards administration fees. Bernie's mentioned this, and in most private insurance places, 18% of the money goes to administration fees. So he likes to say that, you can cut down on administration fees, which, and to him means it's cheaper. I don't think you can really make a solid argument for that. Look, the more administration you have, the more efficient you can be. It actually can help trim savings off. And besides, Medicare doesn't account for too many people compared to private insurance. So if you're talking about Medicare, that same sort of government system being expanded to everybody in the country, you're not probably going to be looking at 2% going to administrative fees or administrative payments unless you're willing to backtrack a lot on efficiency. Yeah. So let's talk about the fact that there are a lot of people who are uninsured in this country. Now, it's important to note that when people bring up the statistic on how many people are uninsured, oftentimes they include illegal immigrants, which I don't think you can really include. If you're going to try to bring up this number, illegal immigrants, they have access to the ER, and that is generally where they will seek treatment at the ER, and there's not really an efficient way to track them. So sometimes that ends up being at no cost to them, right? So I think it's a little disingenuous to include illegal immigrants in the group of people who are uninsured. Anyways, not to mention, I don't have any newer statistics on this, but between 1993 and 2000, in the margin of people who make $75,000 a year or more, there was a 63% increase in those people just deciding to go without health insurance at all to save money. They probably figured, you know what, I can just save a bunch of money up. If a major issue happens, I can just pay for it because I'm not spending all that much money year to year on medical fees. So, look, a lot of people decide to go uninsured. There are companies that have like a health share system where people all sort of, contribute to it. And look, in that same time span, people who made less than $25,000 a year, well, there was a 25% decrease in that group of people being uninsured. So that means more people were getting insured who had less money. People who have more money, sometimes they decide not to be insured because why insure yourself if you've probably got enough money saved up for the treatment as it is. Let me think if I'm missing anything there. Nope, I don't think so. Oh, well, this is worth noting. And we're not going to get into immigration policy. That is another huge issue. That can be another whole topic we can do. But it is estimated that the taxpayer in this country has spent about $18.5 billion, I believe, per year. Yeah, on the healthcare at the ER and those types of clinics that have been used by illegal immigrants. And I'm not trying to say nothing about illegal immigration right now. I'm just telling you that there is a cost of that as well to the taxpayer. And look, money. I know that we like to think that the government has unlimited amounts of money and that we can just keep piling on the debt as we seem to do over and over again, year after year. But the fact of the matter is, the government can't just afford to do anything it wants all the time. I mean, you're going to see some very adverse effects of that if we continue to do that. So this notion, too, I know a lot of these Democratic candidates like to say that they want to provide free medicine, free healthcare to all illegal immigrants as well as all U.S. citizens. That seems a little foolish to me. It seems a little utopian, a little bit unrealistic. If maybe these candidates have a secret, unlimited blank check fund from, I don't know, Santa Claus or something. I don't know. I don't mean to be rude, but it's just, come on. Let's focus on solutions that are feasible. I think they just tried to appease a bunch of people on Twitter by saying things like that. It's just not realistic, providing to all U.S. citizens and then everyone who is also just happens to be here as well. Okay, look, anyways, so then, we talk about, and another thing that gets talked about a lot is there's this myth that 2/3 of all bankruptcies in the United States are due to medical debt. Okay. The problem with that is the bar that's set for you went bankrupt because of medical debt is the bar that's set for that is just if you've at one point had medical debt. I have medical debt right now. I owe $118 or so to a hospital in Nevada because I had a COVID test and an x-ray and all this stuff done in the ER. Look, 20% of all people will say that they have medical debt. Less than 1% of people go bankrupt. And this is one of those where it's, look, correlation doesn't equal causation. Just because somebody lists under all their debts that they also have medical debt doesn't mean that that's the sole reason as to why they went bankrupt. And there's some interesting things you can look at too. The amount of people who have medical debt and are going bankrupt and stuff. You look at a graph of that. It really spiked in, I think, 2010. Guess what else spiked in 2010? Unemployment. So there is some correlation there between, look, we've got to get people jobs. I mean, a lot of jobs will provide you insurance. It might not be the most perfect insurance in the entire world, but they'll help you pay for it. And you're employed and you're making money. So I know now maybe we should jump into the COVID issue. I know that's a very big thing, I don't know if you've heard of it, COVID-19, coronavirus. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's huge. And so let's talk about that a little bit. I want to talk about my experience a little bit with it. As I said earlier, I'm a very anxious person when it comes to my health. I'm actually talking to a psychologist about it. Look, like I said, I'm going to be honest with you guys, all right? I'm not embarrassed to say I talked to a psychologist because I will have panic attacks about my health, about terminal illnesses that I think I have, or that I think I have cancer all of a sudden, these types of things. So when COVID first hit the United States, I was pretty panicked. I would literally hold my breath in supermarkets as much as I could, right? I would I would go shopping for my family because I was scared of my parents getting it or my little sister. I would go shopping for my family. When I got home, I would sanitize wipe all of the groceries, every single package. I was sanitizing everything all the time when it first got here. I was very scared. And well, then it got here, and the effects were seen, and as we know now, studies have been done. It doesn't really affect children very much, especially actually surprisingly enough, that when they're extremely young. COVID they don't seem to mind a little COVID. Uh, Very bad for older folks. A lot of the deaths that we've had, a lot of the deaths the United States has had, actually come directly from retirement homes, from old folks' homes. They have been devastated by COVID. But the survival rates, everything else, anecdotal. I know a lot of people who've gotten COVID and it just kind of happens, and then they got over it. So my anxiety about it went away. I know a popular thing parroted across media is if we'd had socialized medicine, that we would have been prepared for COVID. Um, Look, you look at places like Italy. I know we have the most deaths by far, but it's more complicated than just how many deaths have you had. It's also, you want to look at certain governors of states who let people who are infected with COVID go into old folks' homes. There's all this weird stuff like that. That's where you have states where the biggest percentage of people affected were old folks' homes. And it's like, well, why weren't we protecting old folks' homes? So there's a lot of deaths on the hands of governors, as well as you could say, as well as on the White House's hands. Um, Look, there's no proof that we would have been more prepared for COVID if we had socialized medicine. To say so without backing up that with evidence doesn't really make any sense. I mean, Italy, they were literally having to pick and choose who got care. If you were too old, they wouldn't really give you much help. They would go, you know what? It might very well take you out. We're going to focus on people who have a higher margin for survival. I know that's sad. I know it's sad, but that's some of the things that have happened. And you want to talk about private industry? Our private industry really stepped up. A lot of companies devoted themselves to making masks, helping make this PPE and things that we need to keep ourselves safe. And we can make comparisons to South Korea, but here's the difference. South Korea, obviously, it said that they were testing faster than us. But here's the thing. South Korea took the gloves off from the beginning, and they allowed private industry to step in and do what private industry does best, which is compete. And at the beginning, our government, our bureaucracy, the CDC, they didn't want privatized companies attacking this and finding tests and all that. Finally, the gloves were taken off, and guess what? We made the fastest test, one of our companies, Battelle. And then another company, that was a 5-minute test. Another company, a US company, stepped up competing and made a 2-minute test. I mean, when you open up people to be creative and to try and compete with each other, you get the best things. I don't think that's anything controversial to say. So yeah, you get the best tests. A lot of U.S. companies, they didn't have to, but they made masks. They made masks and they made them widely available, and they made them cheap. Trump got flack when he said he wanted to sanitize masks because so many masks were just being thrown away. Well, what happens? An American company develops a system of cleansing masks, and they start cleansing masks and sharing that machine around the country so that we could waste less material, and we could recycle essentially. Well, not recycle, but kind of recycle, clean certain types of masks. Yeah, and then chloroquine, that was another huge thing, right? Chloroquine. You know what's so funny is it's actually now FDA approved by the CDC for treatment of COVID when it starts to get bad, when it starts tipping the wrong way. People laughed at that for a long time. Chloroquine, and I know there was this big issue where some wife and husband. I think I just made a weird little squeaking noise, so I apologize for that. A wife and husband, they drank some sort of fish tank cleaner because it had like hydro something, chloroquine something. It looked like a similar word. And people were saying that Trump needs to stop talking so much about chloroquine and saying that it helps because look at this. Somebody just drank fish tank cleaner. And I think the husband died and the wife was in critical condition for a while. But I mean, come on. That's on the people that decided to drink fish tank cleaner without actually. Well, I mean, I think you could probably just Google, should I drink fish tank cleaner, and I'm pretty sure you'd get your answers there. So, look, this country's done astounding things when it comes to the treatment of COVID. We got so many hospital beds ready. We got so many ventilators ready, masks, all that, PPE. We've started shipping out ventilators and whatnot to other countries to help them out. And now chloroquine is FDA approved, CDC approved, all that, blah, 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 for helping to treat COVID. So, look, at the end of the day, that private side of our healthcare does help us have the top medical technology. We make the most new drugs for treatment. As I said, we publish the most papers. We've got the most medical tech by far of any country. So it's something worth noting. So let's do a little wrap up here. I'm not sure what the solution is. I know that we can't just keep doing what we're doing. Likewise, I don't think transitioning to a fully universal healthcare system will work. Remember when Obama used to say, if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. It's funny, Politico or PolitiFact, one of those, a left-leaning entity rated that as their lie of the year for, I think it was 2015, 2014, because there are failures in just trying to throw universal health care at people. Some people don't actually get to keep their plans, even though that's kind of the lie that was parroted by the Obama administration for a long time. And they got called on it by a left-leaning organization. So here's the point. It can't just be thrown together. It can't just be thrown together. We can't completely destroy this privatized insurance system. So here's what I think. And I've watched another thing I was going to bring up is I watched a bunch of TED Talks as well by doctors, and a lot of them seem to say this: a mixed system is important to have. We have a mixed system, but it's got a lot of problems. They would say, look, it's good to have this private healthcare for people that can afford it, or because employers can provide it, so it makes it easy for a lot of people. But it's also important to have things like Medicare and Medicaid, the VA, but those things need to be improved by a lot. But I couldn't find many doctors who just completely said, yeah, universal health care, that's what we need to do. And you could say, well, is it because of the wages? Because look, what do you have the same incentive to become a doctor in the United States if you know that the government is going to set your wage? I don't think you want the government to set your wage if you're a doctor, to tell you what you can charge for something. But yeah, so I saw a lot of that. There was this really good one. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a doctor who was talking about how there's some apps and type services you can use where you can speak with a doctor on your phone and they can do a little bit of a checkup and get you medication sent to your nearest pharmacy really quick and for a pretty dang cheap price, cheaper than going to a doctor's office, sitting for half an hour, talking to the nurse for 20 minutes, and then seeing the doctor for 3 minutes and then leaving. So there are ways that I think we can improve this with technology even as well, before we just go, you know what, hold on, let's go ahead and just have free healthcare for everybody. I think the solution is mixed. I think you have to have private healthcare and you have to have a safety net. And as I said, we have that safety net for people, but it does need to be improved. But in terms of these things, these life expectancy arguments, it's fake. I mean, it's pretty fake. If you adjust, as I said, for these things that are outside the purview of healthcare resources, we have the best life expectancy. The bankruptcy from medical debt thing is very disingenuous. As we said, 20% of people will list that they have some sort of medical debt, but only 1% of Americans go bankrupt. And the standard for that is just if people have also listed medical debt in their history, then then people will go out and say 2/3 of people who go bankrupt because of the healthcare system. That's disingenuous. It's pretty false. It's one of those mostly false type of statements. I'm just trying to wrap it up. What else have we gone over today? Well, compared to wait times, but as I said, they do prioritize wait times in these countries. So if you need something really bad, yeah, you're not going to pay anything for it, and you're probably not going to wait super long. If you need something that's more routine, but that routine could include like a broken arm, you might be waiting a long time to get an MRI or to get a cast on, all that type of thing, to get a hip replacement. You might wait a very long time in a socialized medicine country. Not to say that disqualifies socialized medicine as an argument, but just to put it forward. So yeah, I line up thinking that we need to just fix what we have now, which is fix Medicare, fix Medicaid, get it to be better. But I think we should encourage competition in healthcare, because competition is what's going to get you the best treatments, the best new drugs. And as time will go on, you let enough free market things happen and companies will try to make something and undercut other companies in cost. But we do need to fix a lot of things, like the fact that a lot of people in America actually will travel outside of America to get treatment because government, their involvement in healthcare can be detrimental, being that, and we've all seen this, where the FDA, big pharma, they will take forever to validate a treatment that's already working in another country because they have to go through these rigorous safety tests, which is good in a way, right? But I think we need to improve that. I think we need to get government out of that area of what you can do for treatment, because that would save lives as well. And that's why the Right to Try Act that Trump put forward, I think it's a step in the right direction. I think, why can't you try these not fully vetted by the United States government treatments as if the United States government has all the knowledge in the world, right? I mean, I think that's something the left and the right can both agree on, is government's full of liars. Government's full of people who are just trying to make money. And I think we can agree government's not very efficient at its job in a lot of ways. So I think it almost makes sense to have less government intervention, at least in that area, where we're now allowed to try these experimental drugs and treatments for things that could kill us. I mean, look, if you are gonna have a terminal illness and you're gonna die, don't you want to be able to try anything that you think could work and look at how often it works and look at the effects and decide for yourself? We don't need the government to say, oh, you can't take that new drug because it might have some adverse effects. It's like, stay out of my business. I'm trying to survive. I'm trying to do what's best for me, in my opinion. So I think we need to get government out of healthcare in that way and improve the way the government is already in healthcare with Medicaid and Medicare. I don't know what you do there. I don't know what the solution is. I don't think you can just throw money at it. I think things are more complicated with that. I mean, we've seen that with education. You can't really just throw money at public schools. They don't just get better when you throw money at them. More needs to be done. It needs to go deeper than that. But I hope that this has helped you inform your sort of thoughts about socialized medicine and just healthcare in general. There are a lot of myths going around, right? And conservatives like to say it's perfect. Sometimes they'll say it's perfect. They'll say it's awesome. And I do think that it has a long ways to go before it's even resembling perfect. But it's on that same sort of tone, a lot of Democrats will say that our healthcare system is broken. And I don't think that's entirely fair. They'll say that socialized medicine is the key. And then look, if we look at some of these myths that we've just gone through, some of these things put forward that are a bit disingenuous, I think there's a lot of room for debate on what is key or what is right. And look, leaning left or leaning right, we all want the same thing. We want people to survive. We want people to live. We want people to be able to get treatment. And for me, I think that starts with improving Medicare and Medicaid, but letting people keep their privatized insurance. We have a safety net already, contrary to maybe some people's beliefs. We have that safety net with Medicare, Medicaid, and the VA, but it needs to be fixed. Get government out of deciding what treatments and drugs we can use. I think that'll save a lot of lives as well. More Americans than any other country, as I said, we will travel to try different new procedures and drugs. But yeah, that's all I got for you tonight. I hope you've learned something. I hope that the wheels are turning. I hope you're thinking and geez, I mean, like I said, I don't know what the solution is. I've spent a lot of time looking at all this stuff, and there's no just plainly obvious solution. But let's think together. Let's continue to work together. Thank you for listening. Again, follow me on Instagram. Send me articles. Send me sources that you want me to put into my part 2 of healthcare, because I may have missed some. I mean, I definitely have probably missed some things. That's kind of a funny way to put it. I have definitely missed some things. So send me articles, send me resources. I'm going to start trying to do some interviews too here soon. So that's kind of exciting. And start doing some questions, kind of doing a little bit of journalism. I did almost get a journalism minor. Failed the class though. Failed one class because I didn't do any of the homework. So no journalism minor for me. But hey, I aced all the main projects, so I don't know. It's like, come on, just pass me. Give me a C minus, whatever. Anyways, I digress. I'm going to get a little journalistic too. I'm going to try to do some interviews, talk to some actual healthcare people, and we'll gear up for a part 2 down the line. And as I said, our nuanced viewpoints on this show, on our show, it's going to ebb and flow. It rhymed. That rhymed. I like that. But seriously, follow me on Instagram so that you can send me articles, you can send me sources, send me studies, and I'll look into it. And we'll do a part 2 on these main issues: healthcare, unarmed killings of black and white people by police, and we'll add topics as we go on. I think I have managed to keep this a little bit shorter than the unarmed killings one, but I really do want to thank you if you've been listening from the bottom of my heart. There are a lot of people who are very close to me that haven't gotten around to listening yet, and there are a lot of people who I didn't think were that close to me who have listened. And if you have or you have not finished them as you've listened, Either way, I appreciate you, and I appreciate that it seems if you stumbled across this podcast on YouTube or on Spotify, it seems like you do have an interest in expanding your mind and being nuanced, and that's the same interest I have. Because I don't want my bias to get in the way, and that's part of this show is trying to help me have less bias, as well as you, as well as us on our show. So thank you very much for listening. And here's the thing too. If you follow me on Instagram, you DM me, you hit me up, you can make suggestions of other topics that if you want me to do a lot of research for you, I'll do it. I'll read books. I'll do whatever. I'm still reading the new Jim Crow, which we'll get into mass incarceration down the line for sure. It's a dense book though. That's a dense book. And I'm trying to fact check things and keep it on the up and up. So, I'm about 2/3 of the way through that one now. So slow progress. But the point is I'm not averse to checking things out. So let me know. Follow me on Instagram, Legend Mares, at Legend Mares, LEGENDMAIRS, and share with me things, and I will share it with this audience that is small for now, but I tell you what, we're going to grow. We're going to grow because it's our show, and I think with all of our combined power and you all helping me along the way, we are going to at least improve the lives of us, right? Because we'll be more open-minded and we'll be more nuanced, and maybe it'll help some of us take the emotion out of policy and start thinking critically. So I'm going to stop rambling now because it's probably going to end up longer than that long episode if I keep rambling. So I love y'all. Take care. Be safe. I'm thinking about you, and I love you. Peace.